the power that liberates the human spirit, that causes man to set up a political and economic order based on the universal principle of justice. And this is why both the Bible and the Holy Quran prophesy a doom coming to this world. For where there is no justice, there is no permanence. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad has taught us that no civilization which is unjust, whose evil outweighs its good, can have any permanence in a universe constructed on the principle of justice. So when we say power at last, forever, we are not speaking only of political power and economic power, but we are talking about that third power that makes the other two powers permanent. And that is the power that liberates the human spirit. And that power, my beloved brothers and sisters, comes only from Allah. But when we speak of God, oftentimes we speak divisively. For even though God is one, we are divided by our many concepts and views of God. And when we speak of politics, again, oftentimes we speak divisively, because we have different means or methods of governing what we own as our possessions. However, when we speak of need, when we speak of physical and material need, human need, then we speak in universal terms, because our physical, material, and human needs are basically the same. So this message that we bring you this evening will focus on our common needs, our common desire to satisfy needs, and a common solution that will give us the satisfaction of all of our basic needs. Africa, the Caribbean, black people in America, the American Indians, the third world people, people throughout the world have an economic need. Africa has a need for the knowledge and technology that will allow Africa to take her resources and put them into her service and the service of others. The Caribbean has that same need. Indian people in America have an economic need. Though they live on reservations, there must be the knowledge and technology to transform those reservations into actual havens for the Indian people. They need knowledge and technology. Yes, black people in America, for us, we don't have any land, no mineral wealth, but what we have as a resource is the wealth and talent of our own being, over which we have no mastery. So we must regain control of ourselves. Then we must gain control of $190 billion purchasing power that we are blessed to get out of the American economy. So let us start this afternoon with black people here in America, because black people and Indian people are a significant factor in the liberation struggle of all oppressed people throughout the world. The black people in America over the last 4 centuries of our sojourn have produced many great leaders. There are 5 great leaders who have left us 5 great legacies. These 5 great leaders are Frederick Douglass, Booker T. Washington, W.E.B. Du Bois, Marcus Garvey, and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Now, beloved, Frederick Douglass gave us the brilliance of oratory and the basis for protest to demand justice from a government and people who had deprived us of the essentials of life. Booker T. Washington gave us the legacy of black people being trained in agriculture and industry that the black man and woman may begin to do for ourselves. But Booker T. Washington did not necessarily agree that blacks should return to Africa, but he said we should drop our buckets down where we are, meaning that we should draw life and sustenance from the soil under our feet. Wherever we are on the earth, that is ours. Don't you ever think that the earth belongs to anyone but the righteous. Listen. Another great legacy came from W.E.B. Du Bois. He felt that among us was a talented tenth whose mind should be developed in philosophy, in the development of ideas, that we should become thinkers, formulators, and planners. The Honorable Marcus Garvey wanted black people to recognize the value of themselves and the value of Africa. He wanted blacks who were persecuted in America to return to Africa, to build Africa for the Africans at home and abroad. From these four great leaders and their four great legacies come the movements that flourished in the 1960s. The civil rights movement of Martin Luther King Jr. and all of the civil rights leaders springs from the legacy of Frederick Douglass and W.E.B. Du Bois. A significant economic movement, however, did not spring from Booker T. Washington. Do you know why? The other leaders were so busy not studying his strategy, but calling him an Uncle Tom. So when he was maligned as an Uncle Tom, and those of us who came after Booker T. Washington began to see him as an Uncle Tom, we didn't pay attention to what the man said. So out of Booker T. Washington, no significant economic movement began. If we would have produced that great economic movement from Booker T. Washington, we wouldn't even be talking about what we're talking about today, power at last forever. We would have it. Marcus Garvey was the father of nationalist thought in America. And from Mr. Garvey has sprung a significant movement. Now, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, many historians don't really want to give him credit. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad was similar to these four great leaders, but yet he was different. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad adapted the program of nation building with the demands of Frederick Douglass for equal justice. His program fulfilled the talented tenth concept of W.E.B. Du Bois, linking it with the philosophy of Booker T. Washington. He asked for separation, either to return to Africa or for separate states here in America. This was hard on our ears, but he also said quite subtly that he could show us how to get along better with our slave masters' children. So in the germ, or the seminal stage of the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, what we see is the synthesis of the approach of these four great leaders and their legacies, and a basis for an entirely new civilization. So what Louis Farrakhan represents today, that you consider a new direction, is nothing more than the development of the synthesis of these four great leaders and their legacies to create from this synthesis a new movement. Not a national movement, but a new movement that is international in scope. And this is why today you see members of the nations of Africa, the Caribbean, the Middle East, the Indians, people from all over the world represented, because what we represent is not going to be bound by the geography of America. It will leap the borders of the Atlantic Ocean and the Pacific Ocean and unite black, brown, red, and yellow peoples all the way around the world, and those whites of goodwill who care to join this endeavor. the Honorable Elijah Muhammad brought to black people in America a program that was religious, economic, educational, political, social, moral, and spiritual. He dealt with the totality of our problem in the more than 40 years that he was among us. So you see, Louis Farrakhan is developing a religious synthesis so that we can bring people of various religions and expressions together for one common cause. This is why Christians are here, Hebrews are here, agnostics are here, people of every persuasion are here. Why? Because you see Louis Farrakhan as a threat to your particular religious ideology? No, you see in Louis Farrakhan a man that has transcended the secularism of this kind of religious dogma and teaching. Yes. But look, we are also developing a synthesis of the political, economic, and social theory of these four great legacies, that we may produce that which gains and galvanizes the support of the masses of our people. Once this is done, we will have created power to liberate ourselves on all three levels of development. What is this that we have evolved? It is called simply power. You remember how when Kwame Ture, when he was known as Stokely Carmichael, said black power, and it ran white folks up a tree? Why did they get excited when the brother said power? It's because they understood that if black folk ever achieved power, liberation is a matter of fact. You can't be liberated without power. If you achieve it, you're liberated. But then they got us arguing over how to define it. And since we weren't as deeply rooted in the concepts of power as we might have been, should have been, could have been, then the power movement died. When we say power, we are talking about people organized. Listen to the words. People. What? Organized. Look at the people that are here today. If we were organized, we got power. This is why when the brother from Azania in South Africa was boarding the plane to come here to be with us today, they arrested him and arrested the top leaders of Azapo, because South Africa, with just a tape of Brother Farrakhan in South Africa, it's tearing up South Africa, so much so that the young brothers of South Africa say they don't want to hear anything a black leader in America has to say except Louis Farrakhan. Why? Well, what is it that I'm saying that has people shook? What is it that I am saying that engenders fear in the hearts of our oppressors? Just to mention my name, it strikes terror in the hearts of some white people. Why is that? I'm a very small man. I don't have much muscle mass. I'm a humble man. I've never hardly been in a fight in my life. Why are you so terrified at Farrakhan? You march to keep me out of the colleges. You protest, don't let them hear what Farrakhan has to say. What do you fear? I know what you fear. You fear the idea that I represent, because my idea from God and Muhammad means the end of your world. Beloved brothers and sisters, I say this with deep humility. It is an act of mercy for us to end the white man's world. It is mercy to white people that we end your world, because your world is killing you and us and all of humanity. We must end your world and bring in another one for your good and for ours. So we are people organized and working for economic rebirth. You may not believe in my God, and I may not believe in your way of representing God, but one thing we believe in: we are black people who have caught hell too long. We are Indian people who have suffered too long. We are oppressed people who have suffered too long. And so now we recognize I can't do it by myself. You can't do it by yourself. So we must organize and organize and organize and then link up with all those who are organizing. All praise is due to Allah. We as a people need to develop the institutions that will serve our people and the continuity of our struggle. All of us as a people need food, clothing, shelter, and health care to a greater degree than what we are presently enjoying. So we as a people need to develop industry that we may create employment for ourselves and our people. We can't look to the white people, to the president, to the Congress, to the State House, to the City Hall, like the Bible's Lazarus sitting down at the rich man's gate, begging for the crumbs that fall from his table. You can't blame the white man if the white man won't hire you. You can't blame the white man and call him a racist because he wants to look out for his own people first. You can't blame the white man if he smacked you upside your head. After all, he said you were free 100 years ago. Why didn't you take a walk for yourself? Brothers and sisters, if we fail to recognize that the responsibility of feeding, clothing, sheltering, housing, and giving health care to black people is our own responsibility. The responsibility to look after what they call illegitimate babies, that's our responsibility. The responsibility to look after our wounded, our sick, our orphans, that's our responsibility. Don't put it on the white man's shoulder. It's a burden that's too heavy for him today, but our shoulders are just right to carry our own burden. The burden is on us. Now, if those on the TV screen would put up an image, there's an image that I'd like them to put up on that screen. If they don't do it, let me describe it for you. I can't draw well, but I want you to picture a head. Can you see it? Just a head and a body. If you've got a head and a body, something is missing. There it is. It's on the screen. You've got a head and a body. What's missing? A neck. Well, if your neck is missing, your head is dead. If your neck is missing, your body is dead. Take it back to the first image, please, and leave it there. I'll tell you when to move it. Now, this image, you got it on the screen? This image is comprised of a head and a body. Now, the head represents the intellectuals, the professionals, the entrepreneurs, the black middle class. Don't wait, don't get excited, just listen. The body represents the masses of our people who are the workers, the children, the babies. Neither the head nor the body have any real power, because that which is missing is that which connects the head to the body. And without this connection, both the head and the body remain powerless. If only the head, the intellectuals, the professionals, the entrepreneurs were connected to the masses of the people by means of a workable program that the masses could be put to work, ending employment by creating industry, we could strengthen old institutions and build new ones which would provide a future for our young. You may not like what I'm about to say. Put that image back up on the board again. I'll tell you when to move it. Look at that image. I want to say this to all of our intellectuals that are present here this afternoon. The black intellectuals represent the salvation of the people. I'm going to say it again. The black intellectuals represent the salvation of the people. But where are they? They are hidden away in corporate America. They're hidden away in governmental agencies. And although their corporate employment gives them a feeling of individual self-worth, the black intellectuals and the black professionals in this present arrangement are not fully satisfied because they are not providing a future for their people. Their present employment, listen, brothers and sisters, your present employment in corporate America, your present employment as an agency or working in the agencies of the government ruptures your connection to your people, and it causes the black middle class to be unfulfilled in their natural duty, which is to serve the masses of the people. Jesus said, to whom much is given, much is what? Expected or required. Since the intellectuals, the professionals, and the entrepreneurs have more knowledge than the masses, then more is required of them in the way of service to the masses. If the black middle class does not serve the masses, but serve only our personal desires, then the black middle class has corrupted its own spirit because it is not fulfilling a very natural duty. And any program that is to empower black people to liberate themselves politically and economically must connect the natural seers, hearers, thinkers, planners, and speakers to the working masses of the people. Now listen, the talented tenth of the population must be connected to the working masses who are willing to drop their buckets down where they are, that both the classes and the masses may be further developed by their partnership in the development of industry. This head or image wears a frown. You know why it's wearing a frown? It's not satisfying its natural duty. Black middle class, you can dress up in fine clothes, drive nice cars, live in a nice home, talk about your bank account, talk about the material things you've acquired, but deep down inside, you know that is a facade to hide the emptiness of your soul. You know that, and I know it too. Listen, the head is frowning, put it back, because it is hidden away in corporate America unfulfilled. This head is frowning because even though it has the material things of life, the soul of the black middle class is empty. But what is the condition of the body? The masses are frowning too. And the masses are frowning at the black intellectuals. The masses are frowning at the black middle class, thinking that the black middle class is only looking out for themselves. The black middle class is not responsible for our condition. The black middle class is as much a victim of the system as the black masses. But what the enemy wants to do is turn the masses against the classes, so that if we kill the black middle class, we have killed our head, and nobody can live without a head. The workers are frowning because the workers are unemployed. The children are turning on each other. And if this condition prevails, the babies that are coming to birth have no future at all. We need a program, brothers and sisters, that will connect the head with the masses. And the problem with black leadership has been that we have been looking to Washington, D.C. to provide us with this program. No, no, no. Thank God for Ronald Reagan. No, no, no. You prayed that God would give you Mondale. It isn't that God doesn't answer prayers. He just knows best what you need. He gave you Ronald Reagan so that Ronald Reagan can cut back on you, so that you wouldn't be looking to the same white father that your slave mentality parents look to. You gotta look to yourself. You gotta look to God and organize, and together we will lift ourselves from this condition. You got a couple more minutes? You got a couple more? It's gonna be a little more than 2. Now look, this program is needed in Africa. It's needed in the Caribbean and throughout the third world. The African intellectuals are running from Africa, finding a haven in Europe and America. There is a serious brain drain in Africa. And there's a serious brain drain in the Caribbean, because our intellectuals have a priority that needs to be readjusted. This priority oftentimes is that our black intellectuals want the finer things of life before serving the masses of the people. African, Caribbean, and third world governments need to develop the right political atmosphere that will allow their intellectuals to bring their knowledge home to the service of their people. So there's fault on the side of the intellectual, but there's fault on the side of the government that failed to provide the right political atmosphere that an intellectual can breathe in. Now listen, intellectuals, if we use our knowledge to serve the masses, we are justified in having the finer things of life which come naturally to us by following the natural law. So look, we must stop the brain drain of African intellectuals to Europe and America, and we must stop the brain drain of the Caribbean intellectuals to Europe and America, and we must stop the brain